What would you do if the person you loved most asked you to choose between your dreams and your family? Stay until the end, because this story will change how you see success forever. And if stories like this touch your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a tale that might just change your perspective on life. Sarah Mitchell stood in the doorway of their downtown apartment, one hand resting protectively over her barely visible baby bump, the other clutching a positive pregnancy test. Her heart pounded as she watched her husband Marcus pack his leather briefcase with the same meticulous care he applied to everything in his life. The golden evening light streaming through their floor-to-ceiling windows made the moment feel surreal, like a scene from someone else's life. But this was her life, and the words she was about to say would change everything. Marcus was a man who had fought for every achievement, growing up in a single-parent household, watching his mother work 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. He had made a silent promise to himself that he would never struggle like that. He graduated top of his class, landed a position at one of the most prestigious architecture firms in the city, and at 32, he was on the verge of making partner. It was everything he had worked for, everything he had sacrificed for, and Sarah had been there through it all, supporting him, believing in him, loving him through the late nights and missed dinners. She had planned to tell him about the baby over a special dinner, maybe with candles and his favorite meal. But then Marcus came home that afternoon with news that made her stomach drop. His firm was sending him to Dubai for 18 months to oversee the construction of $1 billion project. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, he said, his eyes bright with ambition, the kind of project that would cement his legacy, make him a household name in architectural circles. He would leave in 2 weeks. Sarah finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Marcus, I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air between them like a fragile glass ornament, beautiful and terrifying. Marcus froze, his hand still inside his briefcase. He turned slowly, and Sarah searched his face for joy, for excitement, for anything that resembled the reaction she had imagined during all those secret moments when she had looked at the positive test alone in the bathroom. What she saw, instead, made her blood run cold. Marcus's expression shifted through several emotions in rapid succession: shock, then something that looked like panic, and finally, a careful blankness that she had seen him use in difficult client meetings. He was putting on his professional mask, the one that kept emotions at bay so logic could prevail. "How far along?" he asked, and Sarah felt her heart crack at the clinical tone of his voice. This wasn't how this conversation was supposed to go. "About 6 weeks, she replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, and in that silence, Sarah felt the foundation of their marriage begin to tremble. He walked to the window, staring out at the city skyline that he had helped shape with his designs. When he finally turned back to her, his words came out measured and rational, like he was presenting a business proposal. "Sarah, this is complicated timing. The Dubai project, it's everything we've worked toward. The salary alone would set us up for life. We could give this baby everything, the best schools, the best opportunities. But I need to be there, on the ground, managing every aspect. This isn't something I can do remotely." Sarah felt tears burning behind her eyes. "So what are you saying, Marcus?" He ran his hand through his dark hair, a gesture she recognized as his tell when he was stressed. "I'm saying that maybe we need to think practically here. We're young, we have time. This project is once in a lifetime. If I turn it down, someone else will take it, and I'll never get another chance like this." The implication of his words hit Sarah like a physical blow. He wasn't just talking about postponing parenthood. He was suggesting she terminate the pregnancy, their baby, their child that was already growing inside her, already loved by her with a fierceness that surprised her. "You want me to have an abortion," she said, and it wasn't a question. The word felt foreign in her mouth, heavy and wrong. Marcus moved toward her quickly, reaching for her hands, but Sarah stepped back. "Don't think of it like that," he said, his voice taking on a pleading quality she had rarely heard. "Think of it as us making a strategic decision about our future. We can plan for a baby after the project, when I'm established, when we're financially secure beyond question. We can give our future child everything." Sarah shook her head slowly, tears now streaming freely down her face. "Our future child is here now, Marcus. Right now. And you're asking me to choose between you and this baby." Marcus's jaw tightened. "That's not fair, Sarah. I'm asking you to see the bigger picture. I'm doing this for us, for our family. 18 months. And then we'll have everything we ever dreamed of." But Sarah saw the truth clearly now, perhaps for the first time in their 5 years of marriage. No, Marcus, you're doing this for you. This has always been about what you want, what you need to prove, and I've supported every step of that journey. But this, she placed both hands over her stomach, this is where I draw the line. I'm not asking you to give up Dubai, I'm just asking you to choose us. The argument that followed was the worst fight of their marriage. Marcus tried logic, tried reasoning, tried explaining the financial implications and career trajectories. He pulled out spreadsheets he had apparently already made, showing her the numbers, the projections, the life they could build. But Sarah couldn't hear any of it through the roaring in her ears. She kept thinking about the tiny heartbeat that would start soon, the little fingers and toes that were forming, the child who would have Marcus's intelligence and her determination. In the end, Marcus made his choice. He chose Dubai. He chose the partnership, the prestige, the project that would make him famous in architectural circles around the world. He told himself he was doing it for their future, for the security they would need eventually. He told himself that Sarah would understand once she had time to think rationally, that she would see he was right. He even convinced himself that she might still reconsider her own decision about the pregnancy. Sarah moved out 3 days before Marcus's flight to Dubai. She stayed with her sister Emma, sleeping on a pull-out couch in a cramped, one-bedroom apartment that smelled like Emma's cat and the lavender candles she burned constantly. At night, Sarah would lie awake, one hand on her belly, making promises to the little life inside her. She promised to be enough, to love enough for 2 parents, to never let this child feel unwanted. Marcus left for Dubai with their marriage in pieces and a hole in his heart he tried to fill with work, and work he did. He threw himself into the project with manic intensity, spending 16-hour days on construction sites, in meetings, reviewing plans until his eyes burned. The building that rose from the desert sand was magnificent, a twisting tower of glass and steel that defied conventional architectural wisdom. It was praised in international publications, won awards, and yes, it made Marcus famous. But fame tasted like ash in his mouth. Success felt hollow when he had no one to share it with. In the rare moments when he allowed himself to stop working, when exhaustion finally forced him to pause, he would think about Sarah. He wondered if she had gone through with the pregnancy. He wondered if he had a son or daughter somewhere back home. He had blocked her number in a moment of angry pride, told himself he needed a clean break to focus. His mother called him once to say she was disappointed in him, but he hung up before she could finish. He cut himself off from everyone who might tell him what he was missing. The breaking point came 13 months into the Dubai project. Marcus was staying late at the construction site as usual when he witnessed one of his workers receive a video call. The man's face lit up with pure joy as a tiny child appeared on the screen, babbling data and blowing kisses. Marcus watched this worker, a man who made a fraction of Marcus's salary and lived in shared housing with 5 other men, being with more happiness than Marcus had felt in over a year. That night, Marcus sat alone in his luxury penthouse apartment, surrounded by awards and accolades and magazine covers with his face on them. And he broke down completely. He realized with stunning clarity that he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He had chosen a building over a baby. He had chosen temporary glory over permanent love. He had chosen to be a name in architectural history over being a father, a husband, a family man. And for what? So strangers could take photos in front of a building, so his name would be on a plaque. None of it mattered. None of it filled the emptiness inside him. Marcus broke his contract, taking a massive financial penalty, and booked the next flight home. During the 15-hour journey, he rehearsed 1,000 different apologies, none of them adequate. He landed at 6 in the morning and drove straight to Emma's apartment, the only address he had. Emma answered the door in her bathrobe, her expression hardening the moment she saw him. "You have some nerve showing up here," she said, blocking the doorway with her body. "I know," Marcus said quietly. "I know I don't deserve to be here. But please, Emma, I need to see Sarah. I need to tell her I was wrong about everything." Emma studied him for a long moment, and he could see the internal debate happening behind her eyes. Finally, she sighed. She's not here anymore. She has her own place now. She gave him an address across town, but before she closed the door, she added, "You broke her, Marcus." She cried herself to sleep for months. "You better be here to fix what you destroyed, or I swear I'll destroy you." Marcus drove to the address with his heart in his throat. practicing words that seemed increasingly meaningless. Sorry seemed too small. I was wrong felt insufficient. He parked outside a modest apartment complex in a neighborhood that wasn't quite as nice as where they used to live. He climbed the stairs to Unit 214 and knocked before he could lose his nerve. Sarah opened the door, and Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. She looked different, more tired but somehow more beautiful, with a strength in her eyes that hadn't been there before. And in her arms, wrapped in a soft yellow blanket, was a baby. Their baby. Marcus couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl from where he stood, but he could see dark, curly hair like his. And when the baby's eyes flickered open for a moment, they were Sarah's exact shade of hazel. "Hello, Marcus," Sarah said quietly, and there was no anger in her voice, which somehow made it worse. There was just a careful neutrality, the voice of someone who had learned to protect herself. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice breaking. Sarah hesitated, then stepped aside. "Sophie just fell asleep, so we need to be quiet." Sophie. They had a daughter named Sophie. Marcus felt his knees go weak as he entered the small apartment. It was neat but clearly lived in, with baby items everywhere swinging in the corner, bottles drying by the sink, a play mat with colorful toys scattered across it. Photos on the wall showed a progression he had missed entirely: Sarah's growing belly, the birth, first smiles, what looked like a first bath. An entire human being had come into the world, and he had missed it all. "She's beautiful," Marcus whispered, moving closer to look at his daughter's sleeping face. Sophie had the tiniest nose, perfect little lips, and miniature fingers curled into loose fists. She was real and alive, and she was his daughter, and he hadn't been there for any of it. "She's 10 months old," Sarah said, settling into a rocking chair and adjusting Sophie in her arms. "She started crawling last month. She says ma, and she loves music, especially jazz. She has your stubborn personality already." Marcus sank onto the nearby couch, overwhelmed by the weight of what he had lost. "Sarah, I don't even know where to begin. I was so wrong. About everything, about what mattered, about what I thought I needed. I chose a building over our family, and I will regret that for the rest of my life." Sarah was quiet, rocking slowly, her eyes on Sophie's face. When she finally looked at Marcus, there were tears in her eyes, but her voice was steady. "Do you know what the hardest part was? It wasn't the labor, even though I was alone, except for Emma. It wasn't the sleepless nights or learning to be a mother by myself. It was looking at Sophie's face every single day and seeing you in her, and having to tell myself that her own father chose not to be here for this, chose not to know her." Marcus was crying openly now, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. I was so caught up in proving something to myself and trying to escape my childhood that I recreated the exact situation I grew up in. I became my father who left. I made you into my mother, struggling alone, everything I swore I would never do. Why are you here now, Marcus?" Sarah asked, and it was the question that mattered most. Why now, after 13 months? Marcus took a shaky breath. "I finished the project well, almost finished, but I realized that I could build 1,000 buildings, and none of them would matter if I wasn't building a life with you and Sophie. I broke my contract. I walked away. I know it doesn't fix what I did, and I know I have no right to ask for another chance, but Sarah, I wanted to be here. I want to be Sophie's father. I want to be your husband again if you'll let me." Sarah closed her eyes, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. When she opened them again, there was pain there, but also something that might have been hope. "I've spent 10 months learning to do this alone, Marcus. I built a life that doesn't need you. I went back to work part-time, doing graphic design from home. Emma helps with babysitting. I have a routine, a system. Sophie and I are okay. I know you are," Marcus said. "You're strong enough to do this alone, but you shouldn't have to be. And I don't want to miss another moment of Sophie's life. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't expect you to take me back. But please, Sarah, let me prove to you that I've changed. Let me be the father I should have been from the beginning." What happened next wasn't a fairy tale reunion. Sarah didn't fall into Marcus's arms and forgive everything. Real healing doesn't happen in a moment. Instead, she set boundaries. She told Marcus he could see Sophie, supervised at first, so they could build a relationship. But their marriage would take time, maybe even counseling, before she could trust him again. Marcus agreed to everything. He found an apartment nearby, not moving in but being close. He showed up every morning to help with Sophie's breakfast. He learned her schedule, her likes and dislikes, the way she giggled when you tickled her feet. He was there for her first steps 2 months later, and the joy on his face made Sarah's heart ache. Slowly, over the course of a year, Marcus proved he had changed. He took a local job that paid less, but had better hours. He went to therapy to understand why he had prioritized achievement over relationships. He showed up consistently, not just for the fun moments, but for the hard ones too. The midnight wake-ups, the teething pain, the stomach bugs. He proved that he chose them every single day. Eventually, on Sophie's second birthday, Sarah let Marcus move back home. Not because she needed him, but because she wanted him there. Because he had earned his way back through action, not just words. Their marriage was different now, built on honesty and real priorities rather than romantic ideals. They had another child 3 years later, a son they named Thomas, and Marcus was there for every moment of that pregnancy and birth. The building in Dubai still stands, a testament to Marcus's architectural brilliance. But when people ask him about his greatest achievement, he doesn't mention the towers or the awards. He talks about his family, about the ordinary miracle of being present, of watching his children grow, of building a life rather than just buildings. The truth is that success means nothing if you're successful alone. Career achievements fade, but the relationships we build last forever. Marcus learned the hard way that you can't get back time, can't relive the moments you miss while chasing ambition. And while his story had a second chance, not everyone gets that. The real message isn't about redemption. It's about making the right choice the first time, about understanding that the people who love you are more important than the people who applaud you. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about life's toughest choices and most important lessons. Because sometimes the stories we need to hear most are the ones about people who got it wrong before they got it right.